going on an adventure. So there's only one way to figure it all out. Unzip the archaeology. Make it naked.
Archaeology can be dangerous. Digging has natural hazards: desert heat, freezing cold, falling rocks, cave-ins. This tunnel is one of the most dangerous digs in the world. 85 people died because of it. The tunnel was opened in 1996. The Jews said it provided access to a holy site. The Muslims said it undermined their holy places. So there were riots, gunfire, and 85 dead. The tunnel mattered because it was dug here. Behind me is literally the most important piece of real estate on the planet. At least it is the most important piece of real estate for the three great Western religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And they argue about it, especially the Muslims and the Jews, because the Muslims have built the Dome of the Rock there, one of their holiest places. Now, the Jews say you built it on top of where the Temple of Solomon stood for 500 years and where the Second Temple stood for another 500 years. Underneath it is still the holiest place in Judaism, which is the Western Wall, or the Wailing Wall. It's here that when Messiah comes, Jews believe that the temple will be rebuilt. Christians believe that too. And Muslims say it can't be here. That's where the Dome of the Rock belongs. There were no temples over here. This is a contentious place, a place that people are willing to fight and die for. Why is this one of the holiest places on earth? Why is this one of the most dangerous? And if you're an archaeologist, how do you work here? You tread lightly. This is the Middle East. Digging disturbs the land, and the battles here are about who owns the land. To uncover the reasons why this place is so holy, we need to dig into the past, to the sacred texts, the Torah, the Gospels, and the Quran. Gabi Barkai, archaeologist from Bar-Ilan University. He's brought me to the southwestern edge of the Temple Mount to explain the significance of this place to Christians and Jews.
We are here next to the wall surrounding the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. This is the place where, according to tradition, the first rock created by the Almighty is located, and the rest of the world was created around it. This is the place where from dirt was taken in order to create Adam. This is the place where the call came to have Abraham sacrifice his son. This is the place in which King Solomon, in the 10th century BC, built the first temple, the first home upon earth for the Lord God of Israel to dwell. This is the place where Jesus came and was presented when he was an infant. This is the place where he turned up the tables of the money changers later in his career.
Christians and Jews aren't the only players here. This is one of the world's oldest Islamic structures. Islam believes that from here the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven to receive instruction on how to pray. Speaking of prayer, most of us recognize this and this. But when we say the Temple Mount, or what the Muslims call the noble sanctuary. We're talking about this entire enclosure, roughly the size of 24 football fields. But how did it all start? Legend has it that here, on this outcrop of white limestone, Abraham bound his son to sacrifice him to God. Jews, Muslims, and Christians share versions of Abraham's story. But that's the last thing they share when it comes to the Temple Mount. The real disagreements start with Solomon. Jews believe God told King Solomon to build a temple, God's house on earth. That magnificent temple, one of antiquity's greatest buildings, stood for 400 years. Then, in 586 BC, the Babylonians knocked God's house to the ground. It was rebuilt, but only a shadow of its former glory. During the time of Jesus, it was restored, but it wasn't to be. The Romans burnt the temple. After standing for nearly 1,000 years, the temple was gone. Why does the temple, long gone, matter today? The Jews say the temple stood here and the land is ours. The Muslims say there was no temple, the land is Muslim. If you could find archaeological evidence of the temple, the result could prove explosive. I'm on my way to look at the results of one of the first digs ever to take place on the Mount. Just how dangerous is this place? The Talmud, the Gospels, and the Quran all connect this place with the end of the world. So how can archaeologists interested in the Mount work in such a complicated political environment? Part of the answer is that they work in unconventional ways. This material comes from a dump. Why was it in the dump? In 1999, the Islamic Authority excavated these fire exits from this mosque on the Temple Mount. They dumped the earth they moved into a valley. Barkai transferred that material to here. To the Islamic Authority, it was trash. To Barkai, it's treasure. So you basically said, I'm going to sift through this so-called garbage. I'm going to sift through it.
Do not call it garbage.
It's not garbage.
This is valuable material. This is remnants of the dead corpse of the Temple Mount, yeah, which was killed brutally by the Islamic Waqf authorities. Unfortunately, it is without any context. This is all mixed up. It is not in connection with floor levels or with archaeological strata or with structures or anything.
So you got modern glass and pottery, yes, and plastic and everything.
True.
Barkai's upset bulldozers were used to dig fire exits on the Temple Mount. He wonders if bulldozers destroyed evidence of Solomon's temple. Adnan Husseini, head of the Islamic Trust overseeing the Dome of the Rock. I asked him if he believes the Dome of the Rock stands where the temple used to be.
I have read many theories about the temple, you know, in Jerusalem and out of Jerusalem, really. And I myself, I respect all the feelings and all the holy places and all the religions of the others, because if I don't respect these things, it means that I am not respecting Islam. Islam were built on the recognition of the other messages, which is Judaism and Christianity. We don't have any problem with these things.
So do you believe there was a temple?
I told you that I respect all the feelings of others.
No, I mean historically, scientifically.
I myself, I didn't see anything. I have read many things, and I respect all these things.
You respect the religious feelings, but I'm not talking about religious feelings. I mean, just historically, as a person, do you think there was a temple?
Well, my answer will not give anything more than what we have read, really. My point of view, really. I have read many things about this, really. Many ideas. And finally, I am confused now. But if I am confused, the other side have nothing to do with my confusion, really.
Husseini might hedge bets on whether or not there was a temple where the dome now stands, but the Palestinian position is pretty consistent.
The Israelis found not a single stone proving that the Temple of Solomon was there, because historically the temple was not in Palestine at all.
So far there is no stone to prove Solomon's temple existed here, but Barkay has found evidence of the Babylonian attack on Jerusalem and on the temple.
What do you make of that?
This is an arrowhead, tiny but very nasty. It is made of bronze. It has a small shaft for the wooden cane of the arrow that went into it. This has 3 very sharp wings, and when it penetrates one's body, if you want to take it out, it tears the flesh. This is a so-called Scytho-Iranian arrowhead, which was first introduced by the armies of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon.
So this is Babylonian time.
This is Babylonian, 586. This is the tragedy of the destruction of the first temple of Jerusalem.
In 586 BC, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar knocked God's house to the ground. The Bible talks about Solomon's temple built by King Solomon, son of David. 400 years it stands. The Bible describes how the Babylonians destroyed it, burned it. And this is an actual arrowhead from that time.
Yes, shot by the Babylonian army at some defenders of Jerusalem. Yes.
At the Temple Mount.
Yes, at the Temple Mount.
That's pretty amazing. As much as Barkay is upset with Palestinian bulldozers, he's also frustrated with the Israeli government. They blocked Barkay's attempts to investigate the dump. But what about the Israelis? Did they give you a big slap on the back and say, way to go, you willing to do this?
Look,
don't be diplomatic. Did they give you a slap on the back, or did they?
Unfortunately, it is involved with politics. In Jerusalem, whatever you do is politics. Even if you sneeze in Jerusalem, that's political activity.
Depends which side you sneeze on.
Yes, exactly. In any case.
Okay, so the Israelis dumped on you too?
Actually, they don't like it. Many of the Israeli authorities would prefer the Temple Mount to evaporate or to not to exist.
Because it creates too many political problems.
It creates problems for them, and they would prefer nothing done about it.
How long did it take you to get a permit?
It took us long.
We're talking a couple of days?
No, not
weeks?
At all.
Weeks?
No.
Months?
No.
Years?
Yeah.
How many years?
It took a long time.
It took Barkay 5 years to get the permit that led to discovering the arrowhead from the Babylonian attack. That attack was the end of Solomon's temple. It was rebuilt, but it wasn't until the time of Jesus that the temple was restored to its former glory. Restored by one of history's greatest villains. August 21st, 1969, Australian Denis Rohan tried to burn down the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount. Rumors spread that this was part of an Israeli plot to destroy the mosque. Angry Muslims took to the streets. Rohan was a Christian living on an Israeli kibbutz. In court, Rohan claimed he was on a mission from God. He thought burning down the mosque would clear the space to rebuild the temple and trigger the apocalypse. The court declared him insane. Today, the story of the Temple Mount is mostly a battle between Muslim and Jew. But Christians have a history here too, starting with Jesus. During his lifetime, the temple was restored by one of history's greatest villains, Herod the Great. Infamous for trying to kill the infant Jesus. But what most people don't know is that Herod the Great villain was also Herod the Great builder. These steps led to Herod's temple. They are the very steps Jesus walked upon when he entered the temple. Stephen and Claire Fahn from Jerusalem's University of the Holy Land. Steve says, from here we see many of the places Jesus spoke about. Example, Jesus compared the Pharisees to whitewashed tombs.
And then he speaks about them as being whitewashed sepulchres, where they are on the facing hill. There would have been tombs over there that had whitewash on the front to warn people not to come near to these tombs because of contamination.
So what are you saying? When he crosses theological swords with the Pharisees, he could have been sitting right here and actually describing his metaphors are things that we see from right over here.
That is very common for Jesus with his teaching. He uses the life, the images of nature, the houses, society, and buildings and tombs around him to create his metaphors.
Shortly before his crucifixion, Jesus foresaw the temple's destruction. His disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Do these stones back up Jesus' prediction?
You are standing now within a group of small shops which were along the street. Now, the merchandise inside these shops went on fire when Jerusalem was put to the torch. And if you look well, you see that the wall right behind you, Simcha, the wall...
Like, you mean right here?
The stone is kind of peeling off. These are remnants of the fire that brought an end to the second temple of Jerusalem. More than that, upon the street, you have a pile of large stones which were knocked down by the crowbars of the engineering forces of Titus, who destroyed the buildings of Herod the Great. If you look at these stones, I can see with my mental eyes, I can still hear the noise of the stones falling and cracking the slabs of the street. I think that this pile of stones is much more impressive than the standing walls. This is much more vivid history for me than beautiful, magnificent structures which are still standing in the city of Rome. I think this pile is more authentic historically than anything else.
Because this pile actually shows the
moment.
The moment, the violence,
yes,
right?
yes.
The overturning.
If you look underneath the stones, you can find some of the coins and other finds which were thrown away by people who, in the last moment, ran for their lives.
The temple was the site of many of the key events in the life of Jesus. But Dan Bahat says many people overlook this.
Bahat is chief Israeli archaeologist for the Temple Mount. Since he can't work on Islamic sites, he's limited to digging around the edges. So he took me into a tunnel next to the mount.
You see, when a Christian tourist can be the greatest worshipper of Christianity, keeps forgetting that the site is so important for the Christians, and he admires the Muslim architecture instead, like the Dome of the Rock, which was built actually against Christianity, decisively against Christianity. They keep forgetting that this was a site where Jesus, the founder of Christianity, or the father of Christianity, he was actually walked there, he did some of his acts, his first mission when he was 12 years old, chasing out the money changers, deliberating under Solomon's portico, and all kinds of things which are, it was a vivid part. Christianity forgot about it. So
you're saying it was central to Jesus' ministry was the Temple Mount?
Definitely, definitely.
The importance of the temple to Jesus isn't the only thing that was forgotten. There was also the secret of the stones. These stones weigh 600 tons and are some of the biggest building blocks in the world. And they've been keeping their secret for over 20 centuries. The Jewish presence on the Mount had come to an end. The Romans controlled Jerusalem. The next big day for the Mount came in 638 AD. the armies of Islam marched from victory to victory across the Middle East. They took Jerusalem, they took the Temple Mount, or as they called it, Al-Haram, al-Sharif. This place matters to the Muslims because they believe that from here, the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven to receive the command for the number of daily prayers. The Dome of the Rock was built to honor that event. Husseini says the Temple Mount was empty when the Muslims arrived.
There was nothing. There is a neglected site here, a neglected part of Jerusalem here. Then the visit took place, and after the visit, the Muslims built these shrines, really. So we have nothing to do what was before the Islamic time. We don't see Muslims when they were here for 1400 years, they don't see anything, they don't demolish anything, they don't pull up anything, you know? There was a place, and God asked the Prophet Muhammad to make the visit here, and this is God will, and we are adopting God will. So we don't decide this, God decide this.
Whatever was or wasn't on top, there was certainly something underground. Something hidden by these stones at 600 tons, some of the largest building blocks the world has ever seen. They're underneath the Temple Mount, and they're here for a reason.
We are touching now a stone which is the largest building stone ever found in this country. It weighs 600 metric tons, which is enormous. I believe that it was put here by Herod the Great because inside here there is a vault, let's say an underground storage place or something of the like.
So one sec, this
Yes.
huge stone, one piece, it's not
Yes.
broken. You're saying it weighs how many tons?
600 metric tons. 600 metric tons.
600 metric tons.
Yes.
Now on the other side of this is what?
We don't know. As a matter of fact, only last week on Sunday, we had few geophysics who came here to try to measure by echo sounds and things to try to understand what is inside. I don't have the results yet. It was done by University of Calgary, by University of Omaha, Nebraska, and University of Hartford, Connecticut. I'm waiting for the results to know what exactly did they found.
But you suspect that it's a storage?
I suspect that inside there is a subterranean storage place on the Temple Mount.
So wait a minute. So if you're telling me that on the other side of this are substructures to the holiest place on earth, why aren't you blasting through the wall and trying to be an Indiana Jones and find all sorts of treasures? To hear the answer and how it makes the Temple Mount such a dangerous place, tune in next time to The Naked Archaeologist.